stream is broadcasting and we are live. So, hello everyone and welcome back to Adventure on so many levels. We're going to play some Blades in the Dark.
Blades
Get
in the
your
dark.
blades ready.
Stabby.
Yes. I'm Christiana Ellis and I am the Game Master. Usually we play Dungeons and Dragons on this campaign, but we are in an arc involving a heist in a mysterious underwater Feywild setting. And so our players have temporarily switched systems to Blades in the Dark. And who are those players? Well, we've got Mark Kilfoyle as Nedry, currently under the alias of Indigo.
I have so many plans.
Jenny Meltzer as Zaleen, aka Nightshade. Paul Fisher as Zinhorn, aka Garland.
Is it evening? Could there be an evening underwater? There's no sun down here.
Well, it's complicated because there would be sun, except that there is a tiny little eclipse just on this specific part of the water. Last but not least, Starla Hutchton as Lynn, aka Primrose.
Yo.
So, it's been a little while since we last left the Pocket Protectors, aka the Scare Stoppers, a division of the Frighteneers, as you have established your cover story here in the Moonshadowed Sea. You bullied your way, or I should say anti-bullied perhaps, your way into a nice little hideout in a village composed entirely of shipwrecks. And then you established your rep here in the area by first setting free and then destroying a monster in the center of town, essentially. And nobody has to know that you set the monster free in the first place. All they have to know is there was a monster and you killed it. You're heroes, right?
Hooray us! Yes.
You will never hear otherwise from my lips.
But of course, what you're really here to do is to establish a cover story so that you can snoop around for the Diamond of Infinite Facets owned by the Lady Despair, who kind of is in charge around here. But she is powerful enough and able to see the future enough that you need to approach cautiously and do recon first. Perhaps gather some allies and figure out what the plan is. But so, in the meantime, where we left off was shortly after finishing your first score by establishing your cover story and your new headquarters. And so now we're going to do our first downtime phase. So this is the way this game works, Blades in the Dark, is it has several phases of the game. There's free play, which is the type that is most similar to Dungeons and Dragons, where you do whatever you want and we make rolls where appropriate. And then there's scores, where we establish a specific goal and you're trying to get it. We have the engagement roll, et cetera, et cetera. Then downtime is where you get specific actions, and we're kind of doing small scenes to suggest time is passing, and you're making plans and preparations prior to what the next score will be. So you each have 2 downtime actions that you get essentially automatically, and you can potentially do more, but you would have to spend either coin or rep on doing those extra downtime actions. We also have to resolve that one of your number, Nightshade, managed to get herself a trauma during the fight. So, Jenny, have you had a chance to look at the traumas and decide what trauma you are feeling is right for you?
No, not yet. I actually completely forgot about it because we we played roll for shoes. But I
That's
can go
true.
look right now.
So yes, the last time we actually played, we were down a player, so we had a roll for shoes game where a different set of would-be treasure hunters managed to get themselves into trouble here in the Moonshadowed Sea, but you also got to explore around a little bit, and so perhaps you can go ahead and look at the at the traumas, which I think are, let's see, is that in consequences and harm, I think.
Page 13 of the book.
I gotta find my book.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
so no, that's all right. Let's see. So yes, trauma. They are permanent, but there is no like official sort of mechanical thing to force you to do anything with them. Although, generally speaking, it's expected that you kind of tie that into your role play, right? So what you do is and obviously, we'll talk about longer term stuff in general, but the way that you you choose one of the trauma conditions, which include cold, haunted, obsessed, paranoid, reckless, soft, unstable, or vicious. And basically, it's just, you get to clear your stress track entirely, but you now have one of these trauma conditions. So feel free to think a little bit about what you want to choose for that on that basis. And then it is just entirely up to you to role play that as much or as little as you like. Now, in theory, though, if you get to a point where your character has to mark a fourth trauma condition, they can no longer continue as adventurers. They're too messed up. So that's basically how that works. So as far as your score, we have to deal with your payout in both coin and rep, and then we'll move on to downtime actions proper. So where was that? Sorry, I'm scrolling through these pages as well. But the basic, I know I had, I thought that I had all of this in my notes already, and then now I can't find where I wrote it. But I think, so you get coin and rep on the basis of how high a tier, like how difficult a score it was. So the idea is the more audacious the score, the more you get paid, the more you, your rep improves, but also the more difficult it is, right? And so payoff, you earn 2 rep per score by default. If the target of the score is higher tier than you, then you take +1 rep per tier higher. If it's lower tier, you would get 1 fewer. I think what we'll do from the purposes of rep is that we will call what you did as the same tier as you, so you get the default 2, right? Now, some of what you're proposing to take on, like if you decided you wanted to go straight at the diamond right now, I would definitely call the Lady Despair higher tier than you, and so that would be an example of a more difficult approach. But so you're going to get 2 rep as a crew, and you're going to get coin based on the nature of the operation and or any loot you seized. And I think your loot in this sense is primarily just the hideout itself, right? But I'll say that as part of seizing that hideout, you also seized all of that former group's stuff. So I'll say that you have 4 coin available to spend that is new on top of anything else you kind of had with you or brought with you already. Does that all make sense?
Do we have a crew sheet where we're recording all this?
I don't think we made one because we kind of talked a little bit last time about having your own crew. Because right now, we've mostly been talking about all of this in the context of it's just you and your NPC friends, right? And I think if you were planning to keep it that way, we probably wouldn't need to make a crew sheet. But if you want to engage with the game's crew mechanics and actually have, to start accumulating additional allies that you can use for additional resources and support, and to start building up your position here, as opposed to staying lean and mean, so to speak, that's where we would deal with that more. So have you all thought about that a little bit? If not, there's time. You don't have to do it right this second.
We've talked a little bit about crew type, but not really crew or I think part of it is the question of how deep into this are we going to go? Is it going to be the thing where we really do need to have that stair step, that ladder of achievements and growth?
Well, I think, in the meta, are you going to have to? No. I mean, I think, we're doing this to have fun. So whatever way of playing sounds most fun for you, I will be tailoring towards supporting that. But at the same time, you're certainly in a tough situation. It's one where potentially attracting some allies might be useful. So I think I'm going to really just put it down to, even though so much of this game we describe as fiction first, where we say like, well, what is it that your character is doing? But I think briefly what we want to say here is, does it sound like fun to start building a bigger crew? Or do you feel like that would be too complicated for what's going to be a smaller arc?
I think it would be fun to engage with those parts of the rules. So long as we're doing it, we may as well do all of it.
Okay. Great.
I had a quick
Oh,
question.
well, does Starla speak for everyone there?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with building up a crew.
Okay.
I think it would be interesting to have that sort of sequence of achievements get to that level.
Great.
Going back to the coin for a second, you said 4 coin. Is that 4 each or 4 for the
No,
crew?
it is 4 for the total crew. Now, don't think of coin in this context as like a gold coin. It is an abstracted unit of measure, right? So you have to start 2 rep and 4 coin, and then of course all of the other things that you have that we could, adjudicate to rep or coin as makes sense in the fiction. And then we need to generate heat as well. So after a score or a conflict with an opponent, your crew takes heat according to the nature of the operation. So the question is, everything you did, would we describe that as smooth and quiet, low exposure? I think probably not. Contained, standard exposure, loud and chaotic, high exposure, or wild, devastating exposure? I think...
Three.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say is loud and chaotic, high exposure sounds about right to me. You kind of deliberately made a big scene.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be 4 heat. So you start with, you're starting with 4 heat in this particular scenario. And let's see, let's make a, see if I can figure out how to do this.
If we are using the crew sheet that all those things get placed somewhere, if not, I would
Yes.
create a Google Doc or something for us to share to see all those so we know what they are.
Okay, so yes, I've just made a crew sheet. First of all, let me show this on the screen here. So there's a crew sheet here. I've just created it, and so we've got rep that's kind of in the upper left there. You got name, reputation, lair, rep, hold, tier, various things, lots of stuff on there. And I think we don't need to go through everything on there right now, but
We
You
can't
might
see
need to
it.
set permissions. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just did show to players. Is it not?
It's just empty.
Um, it's well, I mean, it should be in your journal as scare stoppers. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Here, so that no, you're not going to see it on your screen unless you open it. You need to go
No,
to the
it's
journal,
still
like where.
empty.
Yeah, it opens to blank. Sorry.
But it's like, but it's in all your journals. That's like,
yeah, it's
okay.
there,
Yeah.
but it took
But
a
there's
minute
nothing
to
in it.
load. It's loading right now.
Okay.
Oh, I see. It's really slow.
Yeah, there's like
Okay.
the D20 that's
Ah,
loading on
okay.
that page.
Wow. Why
Yeah.
would it take that? Why would it do that? I don't know why it would take any time at all. Like it comes right up for me. Do you not? You still not see it, or do you see it?
No,
Nope.
it's popped
I've
up
got
eventually.
it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't know why that took so long, but in any case, we don't need to go through all of the different pieces of that right now. We can talk about that in a minute. But so for now, though, you've got your rep, so you can mark rep. You can start putting, name, reputation, layer. You could start describing that stuff. Heat, but the key is I'll just put it on for now. So I'll mark 2 rep. I'll mark 4 heat. And note that the way the heat track works is if you fill it up, you gain a wanted level, right? And you can have different wanted levels. It's kind of like Grand Theft Auto, right? Or Red Dead Redemption in that way.
Or One Piece.
Or sure. And then coin, coin. You have 4 coin to start. So as I marked those, do they show up as marked for you?
Yep.
Okay.
It's funny because I had marked them before, but I don't know if that showed up.
Okay, well, so in any case, I've got it set so that you should all be able to mark stuff now. So, but in any case, so we've now resolved the payoff, the heat, and then there would be incarceration would be one way to bring down your wanted level. But I think we will probably not get there. But now we need to roll for entanglements, and these are complications that have arisen as a result of you making a splash, so to speak. So, yes, what?
Yeah, it still hasn't loaded for me.
Okay.
Just
so-
exit out and go back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I did, and it loaded like right away.
Okay.
I opened it 3 times, but eventually it seemed to
Mm-hmm.
load. If you see a D20 on the page, that means it's loading.
Yeah. So it should show up in your journal as scare stoppers as a sheet, just like where your character sheet is. And if it's taking a while to load, then I guess that happens. But so for entanglements, we are going to roll a d6 based on the level of heat you generated, which is 4, to see what kind of entanglement is going to result from this. So who would like to do the honors? This would just be just a 1d6.
Right up D6.
Yep. Okay, so
3.
for a heat of 4, a result of 3 is gang trouble or questioning. And you're actually in this particular role, the higher is worse for you. So good news there. So let's see. Gang trouble or questioning. Gang trouble would be like one of your gangs or other cohorts causes trouble due to their flaw. You can lose face, forfeit rep equal to your tier, make an example of one of the gang members, or face reprisals from the wronged party. Alternately, questioning is the blue coats is the default setting version, but ours would be, probably agents of the Lady Despair. Grab an NPC member of your crew or one of the crew's contacts to question them about your crimes. Make a fortune roll to see how much they talk, or pay them off with 2 coin. So it's one or the other of those. And so How do you all feel about this in the sense that I can just decide which of those things it is? Or if you want, we can have this be a little bit more of a collaborative effort to decide how this part of it works. What do you all think?
I'm okay with you deciding.
All right.
And
This would be something
I'll be
with
right back.
Paradise, Aster, or Buster, right?
Yes, and so I think that if it's up to me, I think what I would be suggesting in this initial case is that Buster got so excited from that whole fight that he was just feeling kind of extra rowdy and rambunctious, and damaged some private property of various people nearby, and they are mad. So this is a case where you all have to decide how you are handling that. You can either lose one of your rep that you just gained as a result of, like, everyone was so impressed, but then you can't control your creature, or you could make an example of Buster, which, we would have to decide what that even means if you would want to entertain that, or you would have to face reprisals from the wronged party. So it's basically what you've got is some of the other people in the shipwreck village are angry with you and demanding to know what you're going to do about it because your creature wrecked their stuff. Separately from the big fight. So you can't blame it on that.
Oh, I don't even know if this is possible. How large of a creature is Buster?
I mean, he's like a grizzly bear.
So I don't know how this would even function, if it would even be possible, because he's a creature and not a person.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am a shapeshifter.
So I think the situation we are in is, after the fight, Buster just basically romped around and started chewing on stuff and breaking stuff because he was just so excited while you all were distracted. And so people saw it happen. And so I think we're still right there, more or less. We could imagine that you maybe cooled it down in the moment by saying, hang on, let us get back to you. But you need to resolve it one way or another.
I think that we should, what was the one where you seek reprisal or whatever, where they tell you what they want you to do about it?
Basically, I think you would be choosing here, is this a case where nobody's going to do anything, but people just don't think quite as highly of you as they did? Or is this a case where you're going to let everyone else stay impressed, but maybe those specific people are going to be mad, and that might come back somehow?
No, we can't just pay for the damage.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Can't we just offer to pay for the damage?
I mean, I think in this context, the way that we have laid it out fictionally, that would make sense. So I will, because it's not one of the default options, I will say it'll cost you 2 coin to do that. Okay.
I mean,
All of our phones.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
The wacky part of my mind says, why don't we just say that Buster's a captured spirit and sometimes they just roam? So that's seeding that whole we are mystical Ghostbuster type things. But
I
we
mean,
could just-
you could do that, but I think it would be still nonetheless a case where people either thought less of you because you can't control your wandering spirit,
oh yeah,
or they're still mad because their stuff got broken. So, I mean, if you want to say we will pay you, but that's why that's what happened, that's certainly fine.
entirely untrue. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to just go as weird and wild with this thing as we can, but
Yeah.
I accept the 2 coin payment is reasonable as well.
All right. So is that the consensus? Okay. So let's see.
I chose haunted, by the way.
Okay, haunted. And I think that's a good choice, especially because one of the things that we established last time is that Nightshade did start to feel the call, the Titan's call, a little bit. All right, so we've dealt with payout, we've dealt with heat, we've dealt with entanglements, and now it's time for downtime activities. And so basically, you start with 2 activities by default, and then each additional one that you might want to do costs you 1 coin or 1 rep, right? And you also don't not necessarily want to spend all your coin and rep every time, because you can save up coin and rep to do things like expand your headquarters or other things like that. But the sorts of things that you can do as a downtime action, acquire asset, and that would be like if you wanted to get a special item, recruit a new cohort like an expert or a gang, get a vehicle of some kind, or to secure a service of some kind, that would be an asset, acquire asset. Long-term project would be something that would be bigger and take longer, and you do a roll to see how many clock segments you can fill on that long-term project. Recover is something that I think everyone who took some harm is going to want to do, which is that's the only way you can clear harms that you've got. So you might want to do those. Reduce heat would be something if you were worried about increasing your wanted level, but you probably don't necessarily need to do that right now. You can train, which lets you, add little skill dots to your character. And you can indulge vice, which is the only way, short of getting a trauma, that you can reduce your stress level.
So all my stress cleared with the trauma, right? So
Correct.
mine's blank right now.
Yep.
Okay.
So you probably do not need to indulge your vice right now.
One of the abilities that Indigo has is called calculating.
Okay.
Due to your careful planning during downtime, you may give yourself or another crew member +1 downtime action. So if someone has something in particular they want to do more than what we've got, we can do that. I'm wondering if we want to declare a long-term project around understanding one of these things, or whether it would just be a gather information. Like, for example, we've talked about understanding the Titan, or understanding the Mistress of Pain. No,
the Lady Despair.
Lady Despair.
Yeah.
I was totally wrong. But
yeah.
So is that the sort of thing we would declare as a long-term
Yes.
project rather
So
than just a gathering of information?
We would make it a little bit more specific. And gathering information is, so when you choose a long-term project, we decide how many segments it is. And then you make rolls, you make moves to see how many clocks you fill. So a gather information type roll is one of the ways that you fill those clock segments, right? But generally speaking, you wouldn't have a long-term project be just to get information. You would want it to be to accomplish something. So what it suggests here is a long-term project can cover a wide variety of activities, like doing research into an arcane ritual, investigating a mystery, establishing someone's trust, courting a new friend or contact, changing your character's vice, and so on. Based on the goal, I'll tell you what clock and how you might work on it. But so in this case, you probably wouldn't have a long-term project that is just learn more about X. But what you might do, for example, is learn X's secret weakness or something like that, right? Or find another way into place, something like that, right? So those would be good things, and certainly as subjects for that sort of long-term project, both the Titan and the Lady Despair seem like reasonable targets for that sort of thing.
Say we try to find our weakness is what I would suggest, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
When does the armor use reset?
That is a good question. I believe that it is per score, but I can let me try to see if I can find that myself.
And similar harm reduction.
Harm
is recover.
comes off with the recover downtime action.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to. I'm looking for armor rules, and I'm in a part of the book that is probably not where the where that rule is going to be. But so in any case, though, armor I think is, let's see, 32, 33, 88, 54.
All your armor is restored when you choose your load for the next score.
Yes, so that's kind of what I thought, is that it's based on the score. So you've finished one score, you'll clear your armor when we start the next score, which we'll get into once we've kind of done the downtime stuff and get into some of the other free play. So, good question. So I suspect that you, several of you probably need to do some recovering at least. And one of the ways that this would normally work in the default setting is by having, you have to have someone with a specific skill of healing you do specific roles, and you need to, like, you might have to know someone that you can go to that might be able to do those roles, or you can try to do it yourself, but at a weaker situation. I think certainly because in fiction some of your characters have healing magic, that I would imagine I would allow them to make the roles in question. But I think we also want to establish that maybe magic is working a little funny here. And so that is why it doesn't necessarily automatically let you just do everything. I'm unmarking 2 of your coin, by the way, because it's because you paid, you decided to pay off the.
Yep.
So, for example, when you recover, you seek treatment and heal your harm. Recovery is like a long-term project. Your healer rolls. We would probably we would decide what's the appropriate skill to roll. Tinker for a roll with a physic or special ability is like the default, what it says here, or the quality level of an NPC that would reasonably have those skills. And then you mark a number of segments on the healing clock. A 1 to 3 as a best result would only give you 1 segment. 4 to 5 would be 2. 6 would be 3. Critical would be 5. When you fill a healing clock, you reduce each instant of your, and it's a 4-step clock. So you would reduce each instance of harm on your sheet by 1 level. So if you have a level 2 harm, did anyone finish last time with a level 2 harm?
I have stress, but I don't have.
I don't think you took a harm.
Yeah,
Oh.
I just
had
have
a harm.
stress.
I have 2. I have bonked and shaken.
Okay, so each of those does need to be healed separately. Looks like Primrose had splinters, and
Yep.
Indigo had bruised as well. Okay,
Yep.
so each of you then would use one of your downtime actions to get 1 roll, and it's a 4-step clock. I think Garland actually has has a trait that keeps one of those steps always filled, so you only have to get 3 steps to recover, if I remember right.
Where would that be, under tree?
Special
It
ability.
would be one of your vigorous. You recover from harm faster. Permanently fill in one of your healing clock segments.
Oh,
So-
for him though.
For me.
Yes.
Does that work? Didn't you say we need to go to him to help us with the process of
Well,
healing?
so he can do the role, but him being physically vigorous and healing quickly refers to
Okay.
him healing his own wounds, not
Okay.
his own body's ability to heal, as
Does-
opposed to
does
his
that-
healing skill for the rest of you.
Does that take one of his downtime actions?
No.
Okay.
To get your own harm healed is your downtime action, even if it's one of the other PCs kind of doing it. because I think the part of the idea there is that if you're going to a doctor, they're not necessarily standing over your bed the whole time, even if you have to lay in bed for 3 days, right? But so the and then so who wants to do a downtime action?
I gotta get rid of these splinters.
Yeah. All right. So is going to Garland to help with that?
Yup.
Okay.
Okay.
So
He's got some tweezers.
yeah. So what we have been using for your magic is a tune, I think.
That sounds right.
Yeah. I believe that's what, unless we want to try to figure out why it would be some other skill.
No, I think it
Yeah.
would be a tune. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to make an attune roll, you don't need to worry about the position or effect in this particular case for this type of roll. So it would just be the number of dice based on, based on your skill.
Okay, so I have 1 dot. Well, so yeah, I did the pop up where it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Risky and standard.
Yeah, and that's fine to leave it like that. Yeah.
Okay, and 0 bonus dice.
Right. Now, in theory, you could push yourself or something if it seemed necessary to do so, but that does add stress to you, and you do eventually have to kind of figure out how to deal with your stress, right? So,
All right. Now let's just try it as is.
okay. So with a 4, you're going to fill 2 segments, and so that means that your splinters are only you would fill 2 segments of your little healing clock, Primrose. And that means that your splinters are not healed, but they're halfway healed. So you could use your second downtime action to try again, or you could leave them half healed, or that's
I
basically
have some stress that I wanted to get rid of, so
yeah. So remember too, you can spend coin and rep to get more downtime actions and that sort of thing. But otherwise, yeah. So that's kind of how that works, though. Is these in this game, injuries don't clear quite so immediately, and that's part of the intent, right? Is that you have injuries that you might get in one score that are lingering a little bit in the next. So we've got 1 downtime action for Primrose. Who would like to go next?
I also want to heal some harm.
Okay.
Could I use my study skill for that?
One question. I just realized that it made sense kind of in the fiction to have Garland be the person to do the role, but Garland really only has 1 die in attune.
I have 2.
But what we want here is the equivalent of a character who knows how to do doctoring is, in this context, someone who has access to healing magic. And so maybe that does make more sense in the story. Like, it doesn't have to mean that Garland isn't helping or something, but I'm just saying you guys are going to have a better shot at clearing your injuries if you are having someone roll more than 1 die.
Well, that's why I was saying, like, could I use study for that instead? Like, maybe I studied up on healing in the Feywild or something like that.
Well, and it could even reflect the idea that maybe you're not even necessarily using magic to do it, right? Just ordinary treating of an injury.
Okay. So should we do Primroses again?
Well, let's not go backwards, right?
Okay.
Let's reflect that maybe what part of what happened there is a recognition, Garland, that your healing magic didn't work quite like it helped, but it didn't quite help as much as you expected. Something's a little funny with the way that it's working.
The new persona is asserting itself,
Hmm.
and Garland is, more of a thug than a healer.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, oh no. So Nightshade, you were trying to cure you're doing your own. Was that the idea there? So you rolled
Yeah.
3d6, but you only got a 2 as the highest. You got 1 1 2. And so unfortunately that means you only heal one segment for that one right now.
Okay.
And I think in all of these contexts, we want to keep in mind that whichever injury, whichever harm you're trying to clear, it the effect of having it is that for whatever roles it might make sense in context for you to for that to affect, you would roll one fewer die, right? So for your harms, you've got bonked and shaken. Incidentally, I'm looking at your sheet. It looks like you have both of those in that left hand harm one box.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to do that.
Yeah, so
Should one go
one should go in each because you can only have 2.
Okay.
So what that means is that if you were to take even another level 1 harm, it would automatically become a level 2 harm because
Right.
it's filled up. So all the more reason that you might want to try to clear at least one of them, right? Yeah. So, and I think in this context, what we might even think about is, I'm not trying to force this to be extra difficult, but let's, just in the fiction, do you think that being bonked or shaken would impact your ability to treat yourself in this way? In which case,
Possibly,
you might roll
because
one
I'm
fewer.
a little shaken.
Yeah. So we don't have to undo any rolls that have happened, but I think we'll keep that in mind. So we've got several more downtime actions to kind of process through, and then we'll switch into free play mode for a little while.
It would seem that things don't work quite the way we usually expect here. So I think it might be important to get a local expert. I would like to acquire a physiker.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Acquire an asset. Where did my? There we go. So for an acquire
Actually,
an
it's
asset.
really hard.
Yeah. It's really hard. You said.
Yeah, because you roll your crew's tier.
Yeah.
You're tier 0.
No.
we
So
roll-
you
I
should
take the
you should
worst.
be tier 1.
Tier
we
1.
we didn't really say that, but I'm telling you that you should be tier
Okay.
1. Because normally if we were starting a campaign of this from the ground, you would be tier 0, but you kind of came into this with some allies and some experience under your belt already.
Okay.
So you're so you would be tier 1, and so in this case you would roll just 1d6.
Okay. Now, is there anything I can do to assist that roll at all?
Well,
Doesn't look
and
like it. I can spend money to
let's
make it a better
see.
result, but I don't know if I can.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things too that let's see, if you want to acquire an asset permanently, you can gain it as a crew upgrade, or work on it as a long-term project. So that would be another thing that you could another way to kind of do that same step. But if we want it now, this would be So I think we have. So you're just rolling the tier, right? So I think in this context, it would be more about you're trading on the the rep, right? And so you can spend coin to raise the result of the roll. So I think
I'm hoping this gets better than 1 die for healing, because that's not really working all that well. We only have 2 coin.
Well,
It costs 2
I
coin
mean,
to go up
even
one tier. So
Nightshade would still be able to roll 2 even if she's affected by the shaken.
right. I'm just trying to figure out what makes sense in the context here too. Well, I'll go ahead and try it.
Okay.
So it's just a D6.
Yeah.
The tier 1. Okay. That's a 1. So definitely not getting
Yeah.
in
So I'll say when you start putting out feelers and inquiries, you're not getting a lot of useful feedback, but what you do end up with is you're thinking that no one has really meaningfully responded, but then as you're kind of about to give up and go back to back to the hideout. Where is? Sorry, I've got my notes in 2 minutes. Like it's all in one long thing, which doesn't help me find stuff generally. I think that you. Why did I? Okay, there we go. I think that lurking in the shadows, or you're about to turn around and go back to the hideout when you hear a voice go, "Psst, hey, are you looking for someone who can make you feel better?"
Physiker, I believe it's called. Yes.
Well, I'm a kind of physiker.
Oh, I wasn't aware there were different kinds. What kind are you?
I'm the kind that can sell you things that will make you feel better.
Oh, well, that sounds useful.
Come into the alley and we will discuss further.
All right.
As you enter the alley, what you see is an individual that you've kind of come to understand that there are various different kinds of sea fae, different creatures, like mermaids and naiads and all sorts of different other creatures. This one seems to be a little bit of the, maybe kind of a reptilian base of some kind, a little bit fishy, but 2 arms, 2 legs, great big eyes, sharp teeth, but in kind of a simpering smile. And they say, "Yes, my name is Scummywink, and if you're looking to feel better, I have a wide variety." They're wearing a trench coat, and they start to open the trench coat, and you see that they keep sort of one side of it closed, but in the other side, you see they have lots of little pouches filled with various substances. How would you like to feel? Would you like to dream the night away pleasantly without worrying about things you've done or malicious influences? Or would you like to have a great time at a party? Or maybe just relax and hang out for a while. Drift with the currents.
None of those are particularly appealing. I'd rather just not feel the effect of these bruises. It makes writing very difficult.
Well, take this and you won't feel the effects of the bruises.
What is it?
It's medicine for bruises.
Would this be a I don't know, a study or survey to go, wait a minute, is this guy snake oil salesman?
So basically what it comes down to is you now have Scummywink as a contact who has a -1 tier physiker skill. So if you wanted to try what they've got as a downtime recovery action, we would roll 2d6 and take the lower. But you've also now got a contact of Scummywink, so you could, like, if you felt like you wanted to know more about them or what sorts of fun things you could buy from them, you also have that. So you have a tier -1 asset, which is Scummywink, the drug dealer.
I'll add that into my list of things.
Mhm.
Uh, sure. It sounds like fun. Why not take another downtime action to try to heal with
Okay.
Scummywink?
All
So
right.
that's 2d6. Take the worst, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, it was nice knowing everyone.
Well, so
that's
that could have been
2.
worse. Yeah, so it could have been worse. But yeah, so that's still just going to be one box segment of the clock. But what I'll say is that they give you this powder. They said it's you take out one of the little wrapped capsules and you crush it under your tongue while you eat a meal and you'll feel much better. And the thing is, you do. I think when you take it, the pain just goes away and you feel great for about 4 hours. And then you kind of feel tired and the pain for the bruises comes back. But it kind of worked. So.
Okay.
All right. So, that's 2 downtime actions for Indigo. I think we're still looking. We've got 2 for Garland still to do, and 1 each for Primrose and Nightshade. And then, of course, you can choose to do more if you like. But for those, you got to pay. First 2 are free.
I think I'm definitely going to try to heal myself again.
Okay. Sure. So let's have you do your study again, but with a -1 in bonus dice, essentially.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
Hmm.
It tried to make me do -3.
Oh. Okay, so unfortunately, a 2 and a 2 still only gets you 1 more segment. So it is all forward progress, right? Like it doesn't ever go backwards, but unfortunately, you are not able to clear them yet. So that's yours, and so Garland, how about you? We haven't done either of yours yet.
I would like to train.
Okay.
So mark 1 XP for an
Yep.
attribute.
And
I
so
am so lost on this character sheet.
okay, well that's all right. So I mean, 1 XP does not get you a new dot yet, right? You have to fill up.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to fill up the XP track.
Are
I'm
those
looking-
the white things at the top, like where it says resolved? There's like the
So
6
so
flags next to it.
below your special abilities, near the bottom, is that mark XP playbook advancement
okay.
track.
So I got 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now remember that so this was so it looks like you maybe didn't do it here last time. Remember when we talked about going through those things at the end last time? Like every time you roll a desperate action, you mark XP. If you finished your session with, you addressed. So for yours, for example, Garland, if you addressed a challenge with violence or coercion, you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background, you struggled with issues from your vice or traumas during the session, you get XP for doing all those things. And it looks like you didn't mark them on your sheet from last time.
Okay.
So if you remember which ones of those you did last time, you can mark a few more, but you don't get the advancement until you fill up that track.
Okay. No, I would have to go back and listen to.
Well, I
last
think we did
playthrough.
it. We did it off stream last time.
If you look through the sidebar, like when you have a minute, it shows you what your rolls were from our last session. Like if you scroll
Okay.
up
Yeah.
in the roll 20.
Yeah, I think the last note I wrote from the last session is plan to address the XP enhancement. I don't think we actually got to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was
No.
something we wanted to discuss soon.
Okay, well, so okay, I'm pretty sure we did talk about it after when the stream was done, but we need to remember to do it at the end of every session is the thing. But
Okay.
so I mean, if nobody marked anything, then let's talk about it because you should have marked XP after the last session. You should get 1 XP for every time you do a desperate roll. And then you, everyone for their own sheet, character sheet, your class essentially has a special one. And then any of them where you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background, or struggled with issues from your vice or traumas. So I think I'll trust you all right now to just kind of quickly decide how many you might have, but let's try to remember to mark those as we get to them.
But my question is, like, when he was asking that, where do we put these? Like, in the book, it talks about specific XP for, like, a specific track, not just a playbook advancement. Like there's an example in there where she was training her insight track. So would you, like, if he wanted to specifically focus on getting a point for resolve or whatever, would he put the XP, like, in those little boxes up at the top, like, next to resolve, prowess, and insight?
Well, so let's see. For train, it says you mark when you spend time in training, you mark 1 XP on the XP track for an attribute or playbook advancement. So I think you have to choose which. So if you wanted a playbook enhancement, then you mark it on the playbook enhancement one. If you wanted a resolve, prowess, or insight, then you mark it there. So you decide what you're training on. Paul?
Oh, so for
So you decided to train. What was it that you're trying to train on?
I was gonna try and train on attune so that
Okay.
so that I could actually do better healing as a backup.
Okay.
To
So your XP that you're marking for this would go up in your little resolve thing.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think in all of these cases, anytime you're doing XP for anything, you decide where you want to put it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It says
Yeah.
that you can choose, like, even at the end of the game when you pick them, you can choose where you put them.
Right. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
that's fine. So you did training, and do you know what you want to do for your other one?
I was hoping to get rid of the stress. So I would need to indulge in my vice.
Yes. So you have chosen as your vice faith, which is Church of Rushama. So in this context, the way that we do that, we need to kind of decide where you're going to do that, right? What is your purveyor of vice? Like, where's the place that you go where you feel like you can connect with Rushama in this case? Because there's not, strictly speaking, a temple to Rushama, but you could find a place that, you know what, maybe what I'll encourage here is that in the Piles district, which, as we learned in the Roll for Shoes game, is the place where most of the new junk falls from the surface and gets sorted into these big piles by these weird little creatures called claspids. And I think maybe when you were kind of wandering around, there is a moment where when you were standing in just the right spot, one of those piles looked like Mount Rushama, and you felt kind of a little bit of a calling to, like, you feel like that spot, you feel like you could kind of connect there. But it is a little bit like people kind of come through there. It's not necessarily super private. And so it is the sort of thing where if things went badly, people might try to chase you out of there, right? So, but generally speaking, we kind of decide where you go to do that. you're taking time to do it, which is why it takes a downtime action to do it. And so you're going to roll to find out how much stress relief your character receives. A vice roll is like a resistance roll in reverse. Rather than gaining stress levels, you clear stress levels. And so the way it works in this context is that you roll your lowest attribute, which you have a lot, actually. Yours are pretty well divided. So you have 2 insight, 2 prowess, 3 resolve. So you would basically be rolling 2d6.
Okay.
And whatever the highest die result you get, so this is actually the mechanics of this might mean that you don't want to do this yet, because whatever the highest die result you get of those 2d6, you clear that much stress, but you only have 2 stress right now. If you roll to clear more stress than you marked, you overindulge and there becomes a complication.
Ah, okay. So how about I just do more training then?
Sure. If that's what you want to.
Okay.
That's what you want to do. Okay. So, I believe we have one more for Lynn, right?
Yeah. So
And and a
after
bonus
what
one.
you just said, instead of clearing my 2 points of stress, I'm gonna try to get rid of my harm instead.
Makes sense.
Who am I going to for that?
So,
Jenny?
yeah, probably Nightshade is your best bet mechanically right now.
Although I know a guy.
I'm gonna come over with some tweezers, like
I think like you
lots of
maybe
little splinters in places that are like maybe not real comfortable with Garland helping me out with those. Would you?
also
Yeah,
Garland is off
let's-
staring at a pile of garbage.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do.
He's training.
Yeah. Okay, so a
4 and
4.
1.
So that's a little better. So with a 4, you're going to clear, I believe, 2 more, which is enough. I think. Wait. I opened the wrong sheet here. So you had 2, and now you cleared another 2. Is that right? Okay, so yeah, if you filled that 4-step clock, you can clear your splinters.
Yes.
All right, and so yeah, you're all set, accomplished. Now we do have so all of you have used your default 2, but as Mark just mentioned, Indigo's ability grants an extra one to someone for free.
I was thinking of starting a long-term project, but if anybody has anything more concerning,
I think Nightshade still has a bit of damage.
2 damages.
Yeah,
2 harms.
which just means too that if she were to even take a single level 1 next time, it automatically becomes level 2 because she's full up on level 1s.
if you need the time to recover, I can work that into my plans.
If you're sure, I will attempt to heal myself again.
I do know a guy.
I'm supposed
He's a
to
little
be a
strange.
guy. Minus 3 and 1.
Okay, so with a 3, then you're still only getting 1 more segment, which I think
I
not
still need 1 more.
right. Which just means that if you spend the coin or rep to do 1 more, you're guaranteed to clear at least 1.
Yeah, but that dips into everybody's coin, though, right?
It does, but at the same time, I think everyone's like, you already took a trauma.
Yeah. Do it.
So I mean,
it.
up to you to decide how you want to approach that. But I think my gut tells me that it would be in everybody's interest to have you not have 2 level 1 harms.
All right, if everybody's okay with it.
So are you
Sure.
spending
Yes.
another coin
Yes.
or another?
Please do.
Yep.
Do we want to do a coin? We have what, 2 left?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm assuming that's
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Use a
Okay.
coin.
Yeah.
all right.
You are more important to us than coin.
Aw,
We'll get more.
I feel so traumatized though.
And we'll steal some more
She's
from somebody
haunted.
else.
You know, Nightshade now has even more of a tendency to occasionally just stare off into the middle distance.
Yes. 4 and 6.
Okay, so a 6 means that you fill 3 segments. And so what that actually means is not only do you clear the one that you were focused on, which probably was shaken, right? So you can clear that one, but they do roll over. So it means that you only needed 1 more for that one. So now you have 2 of 4 filled for the other one, for Bonked.
Okay. Can you? Okay. Never mind. I figured it out.
Okay.
All right. I feel a little better.
Mm-hmm. Great. So that is downtime. And so the next sort of like big score will kind of get there. But now that we've kind of done that stuff mechanically, you're kind of in free play, which so I would encourage you to kind of say like, now that things have settled down a little bit, you know, you've got your headquarters, you've got yourself, you know, kind of recovered somewhat from the fight, and you're starting to think about like what comes next. Now is the like this is, you know, more traditionally like our regular game. You just kind of tell me what you do and we'll figure it out. And I will start seeding in hooks here and there, but I want to give you all the freedom to kind of explore a little bit before I start offering what might the next score be.
I like. Are we allowed to sort of like decorate our new?
Oh, for sure.
Hideout?
Yes.
Because we're underwater, do we have the ability to sort of like swim to the ceiling or whatever?
So if you recall, the nature of the water here is that you are less buoyant than regular water, right?
Okay.
So naturally speaking, you would not float like you would in regular water. You do sink and you are heavy enough on the bottom that you can kind of walk along it. Now, that said, with effort, you can swim upward. Or if you're trying to climb a rope, that's relatively easy. If you're climbing up something, that's relatively easy. But it would require some effort to go vertically that way.
Because I would like to put a table and chairs on the ceiling in the upside down side of our boat house. But I mean, if we're gonna have a hard time getting to them, it doesn't make much sense.
Well, also, it would be kind of funny. You'd have to be like clinging to because you would still like, you
You'd
wouldn't
have to hold on
naturally
to the
float up
table.
there. Like you'd kind of have to hold
Yeah.
on. You'd have to set your plate on the underside of the table.
But no, you would glue the plates to the table.
I see. But then the food would
The
still.
food would fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you could certainly rig it up there to look cool.
But you could also put it on the half of the ship which is already upside down.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But
And
it would be
Buster
like so it would
just
be on the floor, but on the ceiling.
Oh.
would be just hanging out on the floor waiting for the food to fall.
Yeah. Critical question.
Mm-hmm.
Am I in worry of my books? Like if my
Um,
spell book is out, is it just ruined?
no.
am I just keeping it in my bag
well,
all the time?
so I think I'll
Because
go.
the magical book I'm not worried about with, but if he has to, he can go into the bag itself and do his studying there.
I'll say that like things like your spell book and stuff. I don't want us to end up having to worry over much about that, right? Like I'll allow, for example, that maybe you have kind of a waterproofing kind of cantrip sort of thing. You know what I mean? Or maybe your spell book is protected. Unless you think it would be fun to have to worry about that, and to have to go up to the surface
just
every
kind of
time
a
you want to
small
take it out.
detail about, can you write anything in this, or is it all water aside from the fact you can read it? or you can, sorry, breathe it, I should say.
I mean, it is water. So I think that, we can kind of decide how we want it to be. But it is magic water that has a lot of special properties.
Okay. Because Nedry did actually buy an enduring
Yeah, I think that
book as
like,
well.
Yeah, doesn't that like specifically say it's waterproof and stuff?
It is, but you have to copy stuff into it, so that'd be the kind of thing where he would copy. He'd have a
Well,
really good
recall
reason to
that you
copy stuff into it. Right
you
now.
are now at your liberty to go where you like, and so you can easily go back up to the docks anytime you want.
Right. Yeah, it was more of a curiosity. I expect that part of what his time is spent is actually in the bag, copying over the essential spells he needs, so that he has that in the backup book, which will take forever.
It'd be cool if you could make like a cantrip where you could just have like a 3-foot sphere that was completely dry, and then you could put your book on a table inside the sphere and do everything while the rest of you is in the water. You just stick your hands in and they're automatically dry.
I think I actually do have not a cantrip, but
Tiny hut
I
could
do have
that.
Globe of Invulnerability. So I can technically use that. 6-level spell, mind you, not a
Sounds
cantrip.
like overkill.
Of course.
Yes. Yeah, use your highest level spells to do the fictional fluff that doesn't have a
Yeah.
mechanical rule associated with it.
Not like we're doing anything else. So, we need to work out what we do from here. Got ourselves a foothold. That's good. Still don't know much about the city or how it works, or how the Lady of Despair, or whatever power she has here.
Sounds to me like we need to make some friends.
Yeah.
I'm just staring out the porthole window, not even really paying attention to what you guys are talking about.
So we could, I suppose, make some contacts. I don't know if they have a university here, but that would be possible.
Well,
Could lead a prayer group or something.
I mean, I'm just saying, bards are everywhere and they go all over the place, and I'll probably find one around here somewhere.
What I'll offer too is that you don't need to make a roll to do the ordinary sort of like stuff you could find out just by wandering around a little bit, right? In terms of discovering, like, you've got this area that you've sort of based your headquarters in with the Shipwreck Village. And again, as we learned in the Roll for Shoes game, there's also the Lost and Found Lodge, which is sort of the fancy hotel that, it's free and it's nice, but also it's kind of an excuse to keep you from really doing anything else. Then there's also like the Shallows, where there's the Council of Contracts. There's the Piles, where, the actual, junk scavenging work kind of takes place. There's the Vents, where it's, gets deeper and more dangerous. And then there's the Kelp Forest, and beyond that is where the Lady Despair lives. And then it's rumored even further than that, there's the Titan. So you kind of know that stuff just kind of from walking around and just familiarizing yourself just generally. You don't need to do any rolls for anything like that. And of course, the docks. You can go back up to the docks anytime you want.
Can you get to the Titan without going past the Lady Despair's house?
Not really. First of all, you don't know precisely where it would be. But basically, there's kind of some sort of like cliff wall sorts of structures. And so basically, everything kind of funnels through to where the Lady Despair's place is. So you wouldn't really know where to go. See, the only way to do it would be to try to approach it from the open sea, but you don't really know how to get there that way. And the biggest issue is that the Moon Shadow sees special water that lets you breathe it is not infinite. It's not the whole ocean, right? Like there's a boundary of it. And the problem is to try to get there without going past her house would require you to leave that boundary.
Got it.
Doesn't mean it couldn't be done, but it would have its own hazards, of course.
We might need something like a Craberatus.
Well, I think because there were so many people like coming and going and doing all kinds of stuff up top, I think I would like to check out that area some.
Okay. Go back up to the docks.
Does anybody coming with me?
You planning to do?
Make some friends?
Oh, I'm not really good at that.
I'll go
Well,
with
then
you.
you can consider it a learning experience.
That is a point. All right. What should I do? Are
Just-
there procedures, protocols?
Well, just follow my lead.
You have it written down anywhere?
Not exactly.
Oh, then partially?
Observation is a very powerful technique.
It goes so far, but usually with probes.
So, it was Garland going to? It sounded like he was kind of
Yes,
volunteering.
Garland is going with.
All right.
Nightshade, were you at all interested?
What?
We're gonna go get some fresh air. Maybe find some people to chat with?
No. I don't much feel like people today.
Are you sure you're okay? Like, okay? Like, outside of, kind of a little wounded still, but, like, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just don't feel like people today.
Well, okay. So, let's go, boys. Nightshade here feels more like fish than people, so.
Okay.
I know a guy if you need to feel better.
Just realized I should adjust your tokens if we're going to use this screen because just to match the order that you're all in on the display. Anyway,
On my way out, I will whisper to Aster, like, hey, keep an eye on her, okay?
Esther kind of just winks and says, "Yeah, no, I hear you."
Thanks, mate. Out we go.
All right.
His earnest nod doesn't go well with his attempt to be cool cyber ninja guy. But yeah, so we have the bulk of the party heading back up to the docks, which, as previously established, these clocks are done already. Are a busy and bustling, sort of tethered, cobbled together dock situation with ships coming and going. A lot of it is kind of ramshackle. There's the catch where everyone kind of does the trading and so on. The mended net, which is a tavern of sorts. Where are you headed?
The mended net, I guess. Maybe get some drinks and just kind of wander around and
Yeah.
see what we can overhear.
Should we set particular objectives as to what conversations we wish to have?
Thinking maybe anybody who seems to be in cagey conversation might be of use, but maybe
I think
somebody.
there's an abundance of that here.
Yeah, well, if we hear anything specific, like the mention of Lady Despair or the Titan or anything pertinent to our Like, I think specifically we should be looking for, weaknesses, but
Maybe enemies?
that too.
So, are you trying to do this by just sort of passively listening, or are you trying to engage people in a friendly way and all that sort of thing? Or
Well, I want to get the lay of the land 1st.
mm-hmm.
Get my feet under me. Kind of see how people talk to each other and
Sure, sure.
what the conversations of the day are.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. I'm pulling up the list of things that you roll because we're gathering information. Where is that page? Does anyone remember what page it is that just lists all the different actions? Okay, here we go. 58 is got the slightly longer descriptions of all of them. So, like, for example, if you were socializing and getting all of that, that's going to be a consort. Or if you're trying to persuade a specific person, that might be sway. But right now, if you're just sort of, you know, observing the situation as you described, that sounds like a survey to me. But you can remember, doesn't have to be just a solo action. Someone can help by contributing, marking stress, or we could even make it a group action. But that does have that's the situation where there's potential to mark stress for whoever leads it, but you all kind of mutually help each other out and potentially increase your odds of a good result.
So what skill we're looking at?
Survey. Or potentially you could justify study, but survey is a little bit more better fit of what you were just describing.
Yeah, I can help with survey.
Yeah, I have 2 in survey.
Okay.
I have 1.
I have 3.
Oh, okay. Well, we found our leader.
Well, but so for example, you could do it as a group action, right? And then you all roll. You decide which of you is leading it, but then you all roll. And it's just a matter of who's going to take the stress if anyone is messing it up. Or you could just have one of you do the roll and
Get help from one
get
of the
help
others.
at the cost of stress, but you're also just gathering information, so it's not necessarily high stakes. So do you consider whether you want to spend your stress on stuff like that?
Yeah, I think Nedra could just do, or excuse me, Indigo could just do a straight roll. See what he gets.
Just observe and report. Indigo.
So Indigo will go to kind of a quiet corner of the place, set up with his book as if reading, but he's actually taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. So this is a survey roll.
Mm-hmm. And I think in this context, we up on the, so you're kind of in a risky situation by default here, but you're also kind of hanging back. So I'm going to say this is controlled. You're not like really attracting any attention. So I'll say it's a controlled roll with standard effect.
Okay.
All right. So with a 5, that's a pretty good result. And so you're getting a sense. And so what you're looking for is anybody kind of talking about the Lady Despair, in particular, if she's got weaknesses or enemies, was kind of what you're hoping for. You definitely get a sense as you're listening to people talk that there is a distinct pattern of lots of people kind of talking around the subject of her in a way that to your sort of trained analytical mind is very clear that even when you're not talking about her, it's almost kind of by exception, right? Like you don't want to talk about her, but the person you're talking to also knows that you're kind of mutually agreeing to not talk about her, right? That sort of thing. But that's not to say nobody ever mentions her. It's more just a matter of people kind of seem to like try to find ways to refer to her without getting too direct about it or explicit. The sense that you have is that she is not. Yeah, people think she's scary, basically. Most like you hear a couple of more experienced sailors telling newbies like don't go anywhere near her. She's just like she's bad news, right? So just like you might hear about her and be curious, just telling you like it's you're don't indulge that curiosity. But then you've also got people talking about making trades with her. Like she does do that sometimes. And one particular, I think, captain talks about how he was pissed because he made a trade with her, offloaded some fancy elven Eladrin wine for a price that he thought was really good, only to discover after he had traded his whole supply that the entire stocks of that particular wine had gotten destroyed in a fire, and she was able to the next day trade that same wine back to someone else for twice what she paid him for it. And so he was pissed, and he kind of felt like he was tricked, but like, what are you going to do? I mean, he can't, like, it's not like it wasn't a fair trade. He just felt like he was angry about that. So people do apparently have bargains with her in a standard business sense without necessarily being damned for all eternity or anything. But you don't really hear anybody talking about it like they're glad they did it.
Is there any sense that people are aware that she has the ability to see the future, or that she's just lucky?
No, you get the people. It's rumor, but it's kind of like people are pretty sure that she's got something. They don't seem to know she has a diamond that works like this, but they figure she's got some trick that she can do that lets her always know what's going to happen. But they know that just from observing it, as opposed to knowing the details. She just like no one ever seems to ever be able to get the best of her. Like even when you think you have, it'll turn out that you didn't really. But one particular story that you hear that I think is the piece that's most notable to you is one of the captains who is telling his younger people like this is why you need to like avoid going too deep. Stay up here where the trading happens and don't get tempted by going down in there and looking for treasure of your own. Like it's like I get it. Why you would be tempted, you would be curious. I think this is actually Captain Barbles telling this story, but he's saying, you don't want to indulge that sort of temptation because that kind of greed, that kind of ambition is exactly what she feeds on, and she has a way of making you regret anything that you do that might be perceived as turning against her. If you want an example, you need look no further than Curity Detweiler. And he kind of gestures, so the Mended Net is the closest you've got here to like a permanent sort of like establishment. But even still, it's not 100% enclosed. It like has open to the air parts. It's more like a roof with two walls. You know what I mean? And then like some posts and stuff, but not, and so he kind of gestures out of it, and you see out on the end of one of the piers, you actually recognize so when you were first going down in the water, there was this sort of dour looking woman who kind of just stared you down. That seems to be who Captain Barbles is gesturing at, and just says is like, she's the last person I heard that tried to do, get one over on the Lady Despair, and she lost her best friend in the process.
That's so sad.
That's very sad.
So Indigo would have presented this itemized list of things he's heard back to the rest of the group.
It seems people are aware that she has some sort of trick, but not exactly aware of the parameters as we are.
Yeah.
People still try.
Sorry, just to kind of summarize the basic question, I would say is, you get the sense the Lady Despair is not well liked, but people are scared of her, and so it's not that people would defend her, but they would potentially be afraid to try to do anything about it. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
For the most recent story, they say that woman by the dock is one, but her story seems very sad. She lost her friend, entirely unlike our patron.
What did you say her name was?
Purity Detweiler. I'm not sure of the spelling. I had to do it phonetically.
It does seem to be Curity, like sort of sounds like purity, but with a C. Curity.
I think that's what I wrote down.
Want to go talk to her?
Might be illustrative, but she's probably going to be somewhat upset. It should not be me.
Well, I'm willing to give it a shot.
All right. I'll put on my best smile.
I'll observe from a distance.
Maybe don't do that. You're the thug, remember?
That's true.
I forgot to pull up something.
Okay. Well, maybe that's a good opportunity to just cut down to back below the surface a little bit. So, Nightshade, what are you getting up to? Are you just staring at the walls, or are you doing something?
I'm actually all of the things that belong to the people that were here before us. I'm like gathering them into a little pile, and I'm like, come on, Evan, we're gonna give this stuff back to those people.
Oh, you're gonna find the people you chased out and give them their stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, interesting. So, I think you don't necessarily know just off the top of your head where you would find them, but how do you think you might go about looking for them?
I'm gonna go outside and look around to see if there's anybody lingering around. And if there is, I'm gonna try to command them to tell me where these people that used to live here went.
Okay. Well, I think survey would be a kind of, I'm looking around for someone sort of thing, right? Remember too that you've got Evan and Ivy who could potentially help. The way that works for them is that they can either, for example, give you better effect, better position, or you can have them make their own roll and they'll have 2d6 for whatever they try to do.
You mean Aster and Paradise?
Yes.
I would actually probably send them out to look around and see if there's anybody who knows.
Sure.
What happened to the people who did live here?
Okay. So, are you doing your own role as well, or you're directing them?
I'll direct them to do it.
Okay. So, one of the specific ways that can work is that instead of having them, so do you have skills in command? If it's more than 2, then you can use that as a role instead of having them make their own roll with 2.
It's only 2.
Okay, well, so it's just as well then. So so we can have them split up and do each do 2d6.
How do we do that?
I'll
Roll for them,
just
you do it, or we
yeah.
do it?
So you can.
Okay.
Well, I can do it.
Okay.
So, but I was thinking, just the standard slash roll 2d6. But so for Evan, unfortunately, he just gets a 2. So I think he just, I think he comes back telling you, I saw this amazing thing over at the Lost and Found Lodge. They were doing like turtle races, but the turtles would like teleport. And I don't even know how you keep track in a race if they're teleporting in and out. Like I couldn't even really tell you like how they keep track which one is which, but it was really exciting.
Like Blink Dogs, but turtles?
Yeah.
Oh my god, we should go there.
Well, that's why I came back to tell you.
Completely distracted now. That's where we go.
In the meantime, so we'll follow that, but in the meantime, Ivy has better luck. She gets a 6, but so we could. You do want to go watch the Blink Turtle races?
Yeah.
Yeah. It absolutely
Need a
does.
distraction from my crazy mind. It's like making me feel sad inside.
Sure. Yeah, so it turns out that when you head over to the Lost and Found Lodge, you don't have to go inside because it's happening outside, but they've got it set up where there is an obvious starting point and an obvious finish line and a whole crowd kind of gathering around and kind of informally making bets. And then there's like a VIP area that's obviously for guests of the lodge, right? Where they get to be closer. And you get to see that like some of the turtles appear next to them and they get to like pet them and stuff like that. Whereas everyone else is kept a little bit back. But these turtles are obviously racing each other, except the course is utterly incomprehensible. Like, 2 of them will, be here and swimming, and then they'll blink, and then one's over here and one's over there, and they're going off in different directions. It's like, how do they know who's ahead? But it seems like they do, and people are all very excited trying to figure out what that means and how that's going to ultimately get resolved.
Why didn't we stay here again?
Evan was just kind of shrugs. I don't know. It seems pretty great.
This is amazing.
And these are big like sea turtles too, like 3 feet across.
I wonder if you could ride on them and blink with them.
I don't know.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I would be worried that it would just like poof out from under me. Like, does it displace water? Like, is there I don't know.
I don't know. This is pretty cool though.
In the meantime, Ivy has like returns to your hideout, and she's like, where did they go? I thought I was reporting back. I think she does eventually find you and let you know that she has located that they have got their own little sort of, a much less nice nook that they found in the one of the bottom parts of the shipwreck village. So she has found where they're staying. But perhaps
we'll go
at
after
those
this. You should look at these turtles. Look at this. Have you ever seen anything like this?
That is quite something, isn't it?
Why didn't we stay here?
So yes, in the meantime, we can cut back up to the surface crew approaching. So I think so how is this working? So right now, one of the docks that doesn't have a ship at it, that's kind of towards the end of this whole arrangement, you see this woman kind of just sitting on the end of it with her feet kind of hanging over the side, and she is obviously dressed in clothing like like she takes care of it, but it looks like she has worn the same thing every day for maybe a long time. Hard to know how long is long, but weeks at least. But it looks like it's extremely faded and patched in many places, that sort of thing, right? But it's very utilitarian clothing otherwise. She has kind of long, maybe slightly starting to gray just a little bit hair, kind of tied into like very functional sort of bun, but it's messy. Like there's a few places where it's, hair is pulled out and is trailing down and hasn't, she hasn't bothered to tidy it up. And as, you kind of even like she can see you a long way off to like anyone even coming in that direction at all is pretty obvious from her point of view.
So I actually have a plan of approach,
Okay.
sort of.
Sure.
So all three of us are doing this, right? Or was Indigo staying back?
At a bit of a distance so I can watch, but not talk.
Okay, so as Garland and I are kind of walking down, we're not approaching her, right? So Primrose is very chatty, talking about this new song that she heard, and I'm not really sure about it, but it's could be kind of a downer. But I don't know. Do you think I could play it for you and just like get your feelings on it? And so
Sure.
kind of that sort of conversation as we go. And so a little way, I'm sure that this doc has like those posts. So I'll find one that's close to her.
Okay.
But not, like it's obvious we're having our own conversation. So I
Sure.
am intentionally just like,
Well, so what I'm going to say is just that she has very sort of obvious to you, has chosen the most solitary possible spot in a busy, crowded place like this. Right? And so to get anywhere near her without it seeming obvious that you're doing that on purpose would require a roll.
well, I just want to be within earshot of her. That's it.
Okay.
So she can hear.
So,
That's it.
well, so the question is if you want her to not realize that you're doing that on purpose, that will be a roll.
Yeah, kind of I don't want to be pegged as like, oh, well, she's trying to do something here. What do I roll for
Let's see. Gosh, there's a couple of different, because like prowl would be if you're trying to be like stealthy about it, but I think sway is more like a deception sort of thing. Like
that makes
the
sense.
performance of it. So I think sway is probably the most
All right,
sensible
give
one.
this a shot. So is this still risky or is it?
Yeah, so
controlled?
you're risky by default here, and here you're sort of venturing a little. You're trying to do something, whereas Indigo was really just sitting in a public place and watching people, right?
All right. Effect standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, come
Oh
on.
man, so 2-1-2.
Son of a
So
bitch.
I think that you are you've got this whole plan, right? And you feel like it's going great. But I think that you're having this whole conversation, and you just sort of, when you then kind of try to just turn your head just a little bit to try to get your peripheral vision to see, like, is she noticing us? You find that she is just making full eye contact with you when you do that.
Yeesh. Okay.
And,
move a post down because.
Yeah, and she's got like she's got haunted eyes as well. Like she looks like she's been through it. So you kind of so right now, I think in this sense, the only real complication is that she seems aware that you're doing something related to her. But she has not made any move. She's just watching you with just very stoic expression.
We'll kind of pass her an apologetic glance. Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb. Just trying to. I'm testing out a new song. Sorry.
She purses her lips a little bit, like you're wasting her time.
It's really hard to get privacy here. Okay. All right. So I do have.
I just want to
know.
also highlight that the idea that you're wasting someone's time when what they are doing is staring into space, like just sitting on the end of a dock moping. But yeah, she's so busy. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So y'all haven't heard this one yet. Like I wrote this one a while back, but so the intention that I'm going is to just like pluck at the heartstrings a little bit, like see if there's any trying to ease into a conversation, maybe. Okay, so I'll just do the chorus. It's a very sad song about lost love and blah blah blah. For there's gold in the valley, carried by water, gold in the rocks, from whence comes the spring. Gold in the flowers that grow in the meadow, gold in my memory of love I once knew. So go through and play the song for Zinhorn. Or excuse me, Garland.
Yeah. But first, yay. So is the goal here that you're trying to just sort of move her a little bit, or?
Yeah, to kind of some kind of emotional ping.
Sure.
That, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is probably Sway again, but what I'll say is it's risky limited now because you've kind of already sort of, messed up that first attempt. So
Yeah.
she seems a little more conscious that you're doing something related to her, and so she's a little more guarded as a result. But you can still give it a shot.
I really hope this goes better.
Statistically, it seems like it would be likely to.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay, well,
It animated that
a
twice.
4, yeah. So a 4 is not too bad. So what that means is you get a partial success. So you accomplish your limited effect, but there's a consequence. You suffer harm, a complication occurs, or you have reduced effect, or end up in a desperate position. So I think that yeah, you're not going to have any harm, but I think that I think that you realize, like, you finish the song, and so is Indigo right there too, or is it just Indigo stayed back?
Indigo's staying within observation distance,
Okay.
so he can hear but not really interact.
I think I'm just trying to keep it related to your role. So I think you are in the complication is that you see, like, her face doesn't really change. She's just got a very sort of flat affect to her. But as you're singing, like, to the extent that she's giving you much of an expression at all, like, she's not giving you go away, don't bother me eyes. It's more just kind of like something's happening near me, I'm looking at it, that sort of thing. But she is paying attention. She is not just staring into space, she is watching you. And I think that what the complication is that hearing the song, several of the people the drunk sailors in the mended net hear the song. And so they kind of come out and they're watching, and there's a little bit of a crowd forming there, and they're watching. And so like when you finish, there's some cheers from the drunken rowdy patrons that have now kind of surrounded where you were watching, Indigo. So I think your position is now kind of like you can't really see what's happening unless you kind of move somewhere else, and you're kind of surrounded. And now this attempt to try to have this private conversation with this woman seems like it's complicated by the fact that you have an audience. Someone else goes, "Please sing another one."
Okay. Garland.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go give the crowd what they want because love an audience. But you can chill. It's fine. And kind of like
Okay.
motion with my eyes, like talk to her.
Okay.
Oh, hold up my mantle and hey, let's go. Let's have a few songs and yeah, we'll take the crowd with me.
I'm gonna walk over to this lady and say, "It's a nice song, don't you think?"
She blinks and seems to consider that for a moment. I have to confess that music doesn't really do much for me these days. You're the ones that set that monster free and then killed it yesterday, right?
Yep.
What do you want?
Just want to talk.
Yeah? About what?
Yeah. We're trying to figure out how everything runs here. And we heard you lost your best friend, the Lady Despair. And
Yeah.
we want to learn more about her.
When you say that, so like, I'm not going to make you roll for this, Zinhorn. Zinhorn, like you are good at reading people generally.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'll tell you is that without her face really changing much or anything, like someone less skilled in reading body language might not really notice any change at all. But to the extent that she shows any emotional reaction to anything, you can tell that like there's something deep inside that's like that is a extremely sore point. But she kind of doesn't obviously react at all, but you can tell. And she says, "I'm not sure that I want to talk to strangers about that."
Mm. Well, I can understand that. A lot of people have been through a lot of pain in this life, and I helped a lot of people, hurt a lot of people, and I find that talking about things, well, sometimes it eases the pain. We back at the orphanage, we would say that shared pain is lessened, shared joy increased.
She kind of stares for a while, and she's obviously considering that. I think that's probably true. I don't know that I need to get into it, but it takes a lot to get to me these days. But but she did find a way. And I have to confess that I'm not doing great about it. But I'll ask you again, what do you want?
I want to shake things up, and I think in the end that's gonna hurt the Lady Despair, possibly hurt her a lot. I don't know if it'll get any worse than that, but
Let me just for a moment, out of the relatively scarce goodness of my heart, let me just offer that you need to say things like that more carefully around here.
oh, I understand that.
But I do take your meaning. You and your friends do seem adept, powerful, tough, brave.
Definitely don't shy away from a fight.
I have, I had a suit of armor. It's very important to me. And I crossed a powerful individual one too many times. And she saw fit to have that suit of armor dumped in the vents. And it would be suicide to try to go down there by myself without someone to watch my back. But maybe if you're looking for something to do, I feel like if you were to help me get that suit of armor back, I could make it worth your while.
Maybe you'd think about joining our crew.
Well, maybe let's get a suit of armor back and then we can talk about that.
I'm up for it. I'm sure my friends would be too.
Let me be clear. It's going to be deep in the vents. It's probably guarded. I don't know by what. There's ghosts down there too, and creatures. It's not going to be easy or safe. Just want that to be clear. If it was going to be easy or safe, I would have done it myself already.
If you had told me it was easy or safe, I wouldn't have believed you. The vents don't seem like a safe place to begin with, and yeah, if your armor was dumped there and you haven't gotten it back, then there's obviously something more to it.
So, first, I'm going to need to do a little digging of my own before we can plan this. Try to get you as much information as I can. I would suggest to you and your singing friend that appeals to emotion are not the way to get anywhere with me. But getting that armor back for me would help me out. And I'm willing to help out people who help me out.
All right.
You also want to probably make sure your little friend over there is not getting trampled. And I think as you look, the crowd is getting pretty rowdy, and it's the docks are starting to sway because remember a lot of these things are like they're just tethered to the bottom, right? So it's getting a little rowdy over there. And she just says, I mostly stay above the surface these days, but I'll meet you. There's a place in the piles. There's a little meeting place where they sell food under the biggest pile. Now I'm not.
Yeah, I think I've seen there's like a hatch or something, people coming and going.
Yeah, like I'm not welcome in there anymore. But if you know the place I mean, past that pile, there's kind of a nook in the rock wall. And I'll meet you there tomorrow when it starts to clear out. I can tell you more.
Okay. I mean, do I get a sense of what time she's talking about?
You
when it
know,
starts to clear out, doesn't?
yeah. What she means is that even though there's not a super obvious day-night cycle here, the most of the scavengers do kind of work for a day and then take off at night, right?
Right.
And so she seems to be like, if you ask, she'll just say when it's not so crowded,
Okay.
when the scavengers are starting to take off for the night.
All right. I'll see you there. I'll be coming with my friends, just so you're aware.
All
We've
right.
got a couple of hangers on, and Buster. Buster's big, a little scary, but as long as I'm there, you don't have to worry about him.
To be clear, I, as Christiana, kind of did a little half smile there. She did not. She's given
Okay.
you nothing in that regard.
Okay.
But she just says, I hope that we can help each other out.
I hope we can too. And I will head over toward Nedry and make sure
Okay.
he doesn't get trampled by the
All right.
crowd.
Yeah, and I think as you kind of start to walk away, and you kind of look back, she's kind of just gone to staring back out at space again.
Okay.
But you seem to have made arrangements with Curity Detweiler.
Pretty Detweiler.
Mm-hmm. In the meantime, Nightshade, I think that you and Aster and Paradise have just experienced one of the most thrilling events of sports entertainment that you have ever seen. It is remarkable how worked up you can get from an utterly incomprehensible race that is carried out by charming magical creatures. These turtles are very cute. You start to recognize the individual little markings that they've got on them. You start to get a little personality, and it's like they have like there's you start to you hear some of the other onlookers talking about how like there's narrative that go from race to race, like, oh yeah, you can see how he's really going after that other one right there with the little swoopy stripes on his face. It's because last time that one appeared right next to him just as he was coming around a turn and knocked him in. And this is why he's got that scuff on his shell. So now he's on his quest for revenge.
Oh my gosh. This is insane. This is crazy. I think that this should be a sport everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And so eventually there is a neck and neck finish. Everybody cheers. There's some little there's almost like little smoke grenades that they've got that kind of go off and make little colored clouds even in the water, and everyone cheers. And but as things kind of start to settle down, Paradise goes, oh yes, I did find those people we were looking for before we got so distracted.
Oh, those people. Right. We should go and give them their stuff back.
Were you just carrying it around this whole time?
No. No, we
Okay,
just left.
Yeah. Mhm.
We were just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
So we'll just go back and get it, and then
Yeah. I think you find as you're leaving that little area that there is a slender elf with slightly bluish skin handing out commemorative seashells that on the outside show like the Blink Turtle Race Championship with the name of the winner on it, and then you can see on the inside of the shells, just like a little scallop shell, it says Lost and Found Launch.
nice. Man, why didn't we stay there?
Because that sort of stuff happens all the time, and you never get anything done.
That's true.
But so in the meantime, though, yeah, you can find those. You can bring them their stuff. How do you approach that?
Well, we just kind of stuffed everything into an old wooden crate,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just gonna walk up and like knock on their door.
Okay. Who is it? And then I think one person is saying, "I think it's bad luck to open our door. You know what happened last time."
It's the same person who came to the door last time.
You hear one of them inside going, "No, no, 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 no."
This
But-
house is clean, and I brought you your stuff.
They crack the door open just a little bit to look out with narrowed eyes at you. You brought our stuff?
Yeah. It's yours.
What do you
It's your
want for it?
stuff. Nothing. It's your stuff.
Make a sway roll. I mean, you've got all the power here, so it's controlled, but controlled standard.
Oh crap! I just accidentally gave myself 4 points in sway.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did. I fixed it.
Mhm.
Oh. Okay, so you said it's controlled.
Yeah.
If I can get roll 20 to load. Like, all I did was switch back over from my
Yeah.
other tab, and it like is loading now.
Do you want to? I mean, if you want to just tell me how many dice it is, we can.
It's just one. I think it's working now.
Okay.
I think. Tis not.
Well. Okay. Well, so I can just roll a 1d6 for you if that helps move things along.
I think I can just roll in the chat right
Yeah.
like with the command, so
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, look, you got
Oh,
a
nice.
6. So, yeah, I think that when you say you don't want anything for it and you're actually holding it out to them, I think that there's a moment where this really tough looking tiefling guy, I think he's like got an eye patch, and just like a scar, and he's just a muscly guy. He just kind of, there's a moment where you could see his eyes are starting to tear up just a little bit, but he's trying to be a tough guy, and it's really nice of you. We've had a hard couple of days. Like, we didn't realize we were living in a cursed place. But it's really nice of you to have brought our stuff back. So you wanna come in You make sure this place is not cursed.
Yeah, sure. I can walk around and make sure it's not cursed.
Like this place is fine. Like they were in the nice place, right? But and now you are. But like there's not, there's room, but it's also just kind of like it's not much of a a place. So, but I think it'll be nicer now that they've got all of their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think they seem calmed by your peaceful demeanor and the fact that you've actually brought their stuff and you're not asking for anything. So they just kind of like, so like, we're sorry we were kind of, suspicious of you before. We just, this is such a weird place, and we were kind of just trying to, be the tough guys, right? Because that's how that you get people to leave you alone. But we don't know how to deal with like ghosts and monsters and stuff like that. We kind of just we're trying to just have each other's back here. But I'm glad you and your friends were here to like kill that monster thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what we do. And I like flip out one of the new cards.
Yeah.
that Primrose made.
Whoa.
Like if you get scared again, I mean, this is what we do. But yeah, you kind of need to be careful in a place like this. You don't want to hurt other people for your own gain.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's this place, right? Like it's easy when you're just kind of on your own and you're just like looking for treasure to just kind of start thinking like that's all there is. And then anything that stops you from getting treasure is like not worth your time. And whoever's the person who can get it the fastest or take it away from whoever has it is like that's the only way to be. But you didn't have to bring our stuff back like this, so like maybe I don't know, maybe there is another way.
Yeah, I mean, we might be looking for some people to join our crew.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So maybe pop by the haunted house and have a chat with my compatriots.
Huh.
We might have some work for you.
And I think we're gonna fade out there. But and I think maybe this is where we can draw tonight's session for a close. But let's do our little XP wrap up bits. I don't think anyone did a desperate roll this time, right? But then everybody has a unique trigger that can earn them in XP. So like Primrose, yours is you addressed a challenge with deception or influence.
Yeah, I feel like I did that at least twice.
Yeah. And then all of you, if you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background, then that can get you XP. And then, of course, if you struggled with issues from your vice or traumas during the session, and the only one that would really apply to here is Nightshade, but you certainly did that, so,
So those XP, that can go either in the playbook enhancement or in one of the tracks?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Do I get 2 for my trauma?
Well,
it says if you did it more than once, you get 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was mostly kind of a long session of the same one, right?
Right.
But I'm not going to be stingy with the XP here. We're in what we're doing. And so if everyone kind of just makes sure you get your XP for this session, and I think that we can. It does sound like there's some interest in starting to assemble a crew, and so I think maybe next time we can talk a little bit more about what that's going to look like as you start having a crew, and we can get you some layer upgrades and that sort of thing. But we're also going to be perhaps ready to start doing the legwork for your next score, which is to recover Curity Detweiler's suit of armor.
Alrighty.
Sweet.
All right, cool. So I think that's where we'll leave it for tonight. We will be back next week. Yeah? Yes?
Yeah.
Awesome. For more adventure on so many levels.
So many levels.
So many
many
people.
levels.